Mama's gone mad. Mama's gone mad. Mama's gone mad.
Hi, I'm Brenna, and this is the Mama's Gone Mad podcast.
Mama's gone mad. Mama's gone mad.
So, in this week's episode, I'm joined by an amazing woman. She's a Feng Shui or Feng Shui, however you want to say it, expert. She's called Patricia Lohan, and I'm not going to lie, before her people got in touch with me about her coming on to the podcast, I hadn't heard of her. Straight up, I hadn't heard of her. Feng Shui is not something that I've ever really looked into until now. It wasn't something I knew a lot about. When I'm getting guests on and when I get emails about people wanting to come on the podcast, I'm always very aware that they need to kind of fit into the podcast. So when I received the email, with it being about Feng Shui, I was a bit wary, but then when I read into it, Patricia helps mothers all the time, all over the world. She helps mothers to improve their lives and their children's lives by using Feng Shui. I keep changing how I say it ever since I've spoken to her. She's such a lovely lady, but she's also incredible. I mean, she's built this successful, amazing business from a passion. She's helped so many people. She's been in Forbes magazine, and I was delighted to have her on. One thing I will say is I could definitely do more sort of research when I'm having guests on. There's a couple of reasons I don't do too much research. One is finding the time. Obviously, I'm working, my husband's working, we have 3 kids, I have a house to look after. There's enough to do, isn't there? But the main reason actually isn't because of that. It is because when I listen to podcasts or I watch interviews with people, especially those who aren't necessarily well known as such, and I don't know much about that person, but the person speaking to them clearly does, I sometimes get a bit lost in the conversation, and I sometimes have to kind of then do my own bits of research, even though I'm a listener, and I'm the audience, but I'm having to look into it. So I think there's a bit of like authenticity to me knowing just about as much as you guys, if that makes sense, because then when I'm asking questions, it's probably the questions you would want answered, I'd a guess. I guess maybe it makes me come across as naive and I don't know, potentially a bit stupid, but I kind of tried to create what I would want to hear. So obviously, when I started this podcast way back, I'm sure it was April I started this, I never expected to get as many listeners as I get. I never expected to be in the Apple podcast charts for Sweden, the UK, New Zealand. I never expected to hit them once, and I've hit them multiple times. It's incredible. But when I started this out, it was an outlet for me. It was kind of a place to go to talk about the fact that I was struggling. And I think that a lot of the listeners can engage with that and relate to that because it is relatable. It's life. It's really hard being at home with your children all day. And I mean, back when I had Lily and James, we didn't have the money that we have now. We weren't as comfortable living as we are now. Things were tougher back then. And yet this time around, I have found it harder somehow. I don't know if it's because I am more bothered about stuff. So I don't think I'm more bothered about what people think of me. I think I'm actually less bothered than I've ever been about what people think of me. I guess that's something that comes with age, isn't it? But I am more bothered about having the house clean and about making sure we eat well and all the things that are so day-to-day and basic and yet consume my life. But I do want to make this podcast something that people want to listen to, and so I try to relate it to what I would want to listen to, and that does come down to when I have guests, I want to know just about as much as you guys know, because then I'm not missing out questions and forgetting to mention things. Maybe it's just being so self-aware that I know I would do that. But I hope you all enjoy this episode. I loved speaking to Patricia. I've actually signed up to her course. I was feeling so low on the morning of this interview. I had been in a bad way. I really had been struggling, and then I spoke to Patricia, and it's like my world kind of opened up. My eyes opened up to the possibilities of just feeling better by changing a few things. And Feng Shui is not what I thought it was. It's certainly not what Stuart thought it was. I don't think it'll necessarily be what you guys all think it is. It's worth having a listen, and definitely check out her website. The link to her website will be in the bio of this episode, so have a click on that, check that out. I hope you all enjoy listening to it though. I love this conversation so much. So yeah, I'll now put it onto that, and as I say, please have a listen, please click on her website. She's so incredible. And aside from anything, she has the most beautiful Irish accent. I could have fell asleep listening to her. It's not in a boring way, just in it's like a lullaby. I love Irish accents. Yeah, so I'll hand it over to Patricia now, I guess.
What's your accent?
I'm from Cumbria.
Oh, lovely.
Northwest. Yeah.
So my I was like listening on, oh, like my dad grew up in Birmingham, and my uncle, my some of my relations lived in Sheffield. So just that act, I'm just like, oh, it's like,
yeah, very northern.
Northern, yeah, exactly.
Well, welcome to Mama's Gone Mad.
Thank you so
really nice
much.
to have you on.
I'm grateful to be here.
So, do we pronounce it Feng Shui? Because I've always called it Feng Shui.
You can call it Feng Shui. I call it Feng Shui. I don't even know what to call it now. Feng Shui. Yeah, Feng Shui. Yeah. Feng Shui. Yeah.
So obviously you're a Feng Shui expert.
Mm-hmm.
I will be very open and honest. I don't know a lot about it. I'm very keen to learn everything you have to offer and how it can help us mothers, especially. I do have dad listeners, but it is mainly mums. And sorry, I will speak very northern. I can't help it. I'll say
I don't mind. I love it. You can't change your accent. Like me trying to get rid of my Irish accent.
I love your accent. I love it. I've got Irish in my family. I love it.
Oh, really? Oh, nice. Yeah, so don't worry about it. It's all good.
So obviously you help people to do a lot of things. I mean, I did your quiz online this morning.
Yeah.
And I got my score and everything. I was reading up of, things that I need to improve on and everything. It's really interesting. I didn't know that it had such an effect on your life.
It's like every single part of your life it touches. And it's possibly one of the most misunderstood practices. And, for me, our home is supposed to be our sanctuary. It's supposed to be a place where we, where we settle and are supported, but oftentimes it is it's often just sabotaging what we want to call in. So and really making it harder.
Yeah. No, I can understand that. I mean, it's meant to be the place where you relax the most, isn't it? And if it's not working for you, then I can understand how that would affect you. So I've reached out to listeners, and sorry, I'm full of cold. I probably sound terrible. And I asked them if there was anything that they wanted to ask you, and the one question that came back to me from everyone was, how can they do it? How can they feng shui their homes around clutter? Because having children, toys, clutter, husbands, leaving everything everywhere. How can we, is there a way we can do it around clutter, or do we need to try and declutter our space?
No, actually, there's two-pronged approach regarding feng shui and clutter. And the first thing is that a lot of people think that, the kids' toys and playroom being a mess and the laundry is bad feng shui. And I consider that life. Like I don't see that as bad feng shui. What's bad feng shui is, cupboards that haven't been touched for 6 months, 8 months, a year, 8 months or a year. And that's creating stagnancy. Things that are being moved and being changed is it. And I have fierce opinions on this. I think because we're in this Instagrammable Pinterest world of trying to achieve perfection. A feng shui house is not a perfect house. It's not a immaculate interior designed magazine house. That's not what it's about. It's about
Yeah.
yourself and your family getting on great. It's like your kids happy, sleeping well. It's about the energetics and not the aesthetics. So for me, I just think it puts a lot of pressure, this Pinterest and Instagram world puts a lot of pressure on moms and on women in general. And I really believe that we have to like change that whole focus. It's not about achieving perfection. What it is about is creating a home that is supportive and balanced and harmonious. And some clutter can actually be caused by a house being bad feng shui. The clutter isn't creating bad feng shui. The bad feng shui is causing the clutter and causing the disturbances.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that my house is very much lived in. If anyone comes
Yeah.
to my house, they have to accept that they're going to see laundry on the areas, and they're probably going to see the laundry piled up as well, because it's the one thing with 3 kids I cannot keep on top of. I mean, those laundry bins are never empty. Um, there's toys out everywhere. There always is. You know,
Yeah.
our toys are all kind of on display so the kids can get to them when they want them. And I very much try to stay away from this Instagrammable world, you know. I mean, I have friends who will only put filtered photos on, and it makes me feel sad that everyone's so keen to show like an unrealistic life, you know.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
fully agree, we can't really live up to that, can we? And I think that's what people were maybe worried about with this whole feng shui. How can we do it when our houses aren't,
Yeah.
you know, these big spaces with all this room and
Yeah, and actually, like I have feng shuied studio apartments in New York, small terraced houses with like 3 kids and a small, and I feng shuied big mansions in Australia by the ocean. It doesn't
yeah.
matter. Like every building, we have a lady who's currently in a small mobile home, and we feng shuied that because she wanted to be able to buy a new house and get herself set up. So it was like herself, her husband, and her kids running her business in a mobile home.
Oh
And we
wow.
feng shuied it so that it would support her to get the mortgage, to get her money, to get everything balanced, to help her find the house. And they've just got the mortgage and got a new house.
Oh my word. That, I mean, it's incredible, isn't it, to think that you can literally change lives with it. So what where would you start? You know, if you were to go into a home and help a family, what is the first thing you're looking for in their home?
So what's really interesting is kind of like what feng shui is. And I consider feng shui as acupuncture for your home. So it's about the energy. And we don't actually do in-person visits to people's houses now. Everything is
Oh
done
wow.
virtually. So it's not about me walking in and looking for something. I'm not looking for something that's bad feng shui. What I'm really doing is we do an external analysis of the house, and every house has its own personality. So it has it's either a good for people house or a bad for people house. And when a good for people house means that it's very supportive, like everyone in the house kind of gets on well, like one like layer of it, and they get on well, they're kind of healthy, it's happy. And then there's also, but the flip side of that could be lots of disagreements, lots of like aggressive behavior, lots of legal issues, maybe illness, and it manifests out differently in people's lives. So from that perspective, it's the people thing. So when someone's saying, like, people ask me, how do I know if your house is good or bad feng shui? I'm like, well, tell me what's going on in your life. Like
Yeah.
how's your relationships? How's your health? How's your career? Are you all getting on well or not? And then the flip side is other houses also have a personality type for money. So they can either be good for money, which means that, there's always a flow of money. There's no massive like concerns or worries about it. But then there's the other side, which means it's like, money comes in, but it's gone, or you're never able to
Yeah.
accumulate it, or it feels like it's just a struggle. And that's like the first thing we will do when I'm doing an analysis is people will give me lots of information about their house, like where it is, location on the planet. We will take readings and analysis from Google Maps and the size of it, the shape of it. There's a lot of different parts. And when we analyze that, we then decide, okay, well, the house has these good traits in terms of energies and these negative traits. And what we would do from a feng shui perspective is I would analyze and say, okay, these are the elements that we need to bring in. So I don't know if you think about like your favorite place in nature that you've ever been to that you absolutely love in terms of,
Yeah,
and you feel good. You just feel so good. Everyone's kind of happy. They're like, oh my God, this is fabulous. Like I feel so good. We're all getting on great. The weather is lovely. The sun, you can just feel you're connected to nature and it's just in flow. Like that's essentially what you want to feel in your house. And that's essentially what
yeah,
we do with Feng Shui is we bring the right elements into a house to balance it. So
yeah.
I'm not going around a house and aesthetically, there are things that will then pop up that I will look at and say, okay, well, that's not going to be supportive feng shui, but it's not essentially going to be the thing that's, creating the havoc in someone's life.
Well, I mean, it's incredible, really, isn't it? I think that this will open a lot of people's eyes to what it
Yeah.
really is because I mean, I said to my husband that I was doing this,
Yeah.
and he said, "Well, it's just moving stuff around, isn't it?" And I
Mm.
said, "I don't think so."
Yeah, I know.
And
And
obviously, I've been, reading on your website and things. I mean, you've made this incredible career out of helping people. It's
I know.
amazing, really.
Yeah, thousands of people. It's and like the amount of things that we've seen and successes we've seen for people is amazing. I think there's so much potential for especially moms because when you know that your home is supporting you and you feel good in your home, everything else then ripples from there. Like it's like moms are the thermometer of the house. If mom's in good
Yes.
form, everybody's in good form. So that means that you need to create this home space that is going to be supportive of you and of everybody as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean that's very true. We moved into this house. We bought this house last year. We'll have nearly been in it a year. And it's very different to our old house, but I have never felt so at home anywhere. In
Mm-hmm.
our old house, I mean, it was a gorgeous house. It had so much character. It was lovely. We'd definitely outgrown it because it was a terrace house and we have three children. So
Mm-hmm.
it was tightly compact for us. Um, but since we've come here, I've been a lot calmer. I've been a lot happier. So, and I don't think it's necessarily the space we have. I
Yeah.
mean, we have a lot more space, but I think it's just a calmer house. I can't
Yeah.
really explain it. It's hard to describe, isn't it?
That's so fun. And like when we do things like that's like a really nice indicator of it being like a good for people house, or there's good energy in terms of like, there can be some things. And I think the thing is with what I know, the thing is that every area of your life represents a different area of your home. And some of them can be really in harmony and in balance. And you can really feel that impact on you and your health and you feeling calmer and feeling good. And that'll, I will be able to, when I analyze a house, I'm like, oh yeah, well, I can see why you would be like, this is a great combination. Your bedroom and is a great energy is there, or, it can be a lot of different factors.
Yeah. So, one thing you did say about is you can help with sleep for children and help them have a better focus and things like that. Obviously that's of interest to me and my listeners.
Yeah.
So, if children were struggling with school or maybe getting overly tired, I mean, my son gets very, very tired. What would you be looking at changing? Would it be the color of the room? Would it be where the furniture is?
A
How do you go
combination of
about things
different
like that?
things. So the first thing is like if the house is not in good, like so for example, like if the energies in the bedroom are not great, like from the unseen thing, when I'm doing someone's report, that will be the first thing I would look at. But from a perspective of like this and not knowing anything about your house and what room your children are in, what the energies are, I would look at the position of the bed, the type of bed, what's in the bedroom, the colors of the walls, like the decor, like the reassessment of the bedroom, because oftentimes children's bedrooms I find are very busy and the beds are not
Yes.
usually ideal. It's like when if you think about it, your bedroom for me is like one of the most important spaces in your home because you spend at least 8 hours there. It's supposed to be where you rest, you reset, your whole body gets time to just like be to heal.
Yeah.
And for parents and adults, I'm like, your bedroom should be rest, romance, and relaxation. And a children's room should be a sanctuary. It should not be another playroom. Like it should not
Yeah,
be a
unfortunately,
space.
ours are.
And and then if it has to be a space for a playroom, and I know you mentioned at the beginning saying like you have your kids' toys on display, for me, for a bedroom, I would not be recommending that, or only some things on display and others like not, because the toys are bright colors, they're really busy, they're kind of like that's their active energy thing that they do and play with. So
Yeah.
when they're awake. So it's like, how can we calm it down? Like, what can you, and if, and it all boils down to space. Some houses, like you may have a playroom, and if you do have a playroom, it's like, get all the toys out of all the kids' bedrooms.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
just
Chuck them in
use
there,
one
shut the door.
sanctuary, one place for the toys. And, if you have that, the luxury of that space, like use it for that. And then, especially even still like books, only the books that they're reading, there's a lot of energy in books. The colors, I would say, go for more neutral tones. I see a lot of, just even thinking about it, like erase car beds, like race,
Yeah.
oh yeah, it's a kind of fun idea and the kids might get excited. But would you ever want to sleep in a race car? Like the energy, it's like a racing car. Like that's not restful. That's not sleep. And
Yeah.
it's red. And the color red is fire element, which is, anger, aggression, angst, fear. Like it's fire,
Yeah.
So you want to, like, we don't want that element in and around a kid trying to sleep. So you want to be like, okay, well, what do we want? We want calm. So you want, like, ideally like a wooden bed with a good headboard. It's boring, but it is going to be much more practical and also way more supportive for your children.
Yeah.
Also, like, I'm not a fan, and I know this all goes down to space, but I'm not a fan of bunk beds or the beds that have like the kids
We've
up
got bunk beds.
the high, so, and the thing is, it's also a space thing. So for bunk beds, oftentimes the children, if it's a current like phase of like, okay, this is all we have right now, it's not the end of the world, but you then need to be like, well, what else can we do? Because the child that's up on the top is up away from, like, ungrounded. It's the roof is kind of, the ceiling is coming in on top of them. They're, and then the person underneath is like, oh my God, it's not they're not consciously thinking of that, but there can be that sense of it, so for that reason, if you have a bunk bed, it's fine for now. And you may be like thinking, okay, as they grow up, as they get more, we're going to be like shifting out of this mode, and kind of setting that intention and the wheels in motion for that would definitely something. And, when it comes to children's bedrooms, I'm also, I used to work a lot with children with special needs and on the spectrum. That was my career before I got full-time into Feng Shui. And one of the things that I saw with kids was the children would come in and they'd be wearing, clothes, which are fine. But like, there was one particular boy who had a t-shirt on that was like Angry Birds. Okay. This child did not need anything to do with anger near him. He did not need Angry Birds or anything. Like, he needed calm. He needed calm.
So it boils down to clothing and everything.
Yeah, like, and it's just even thinking about, well, what's the needs of the child? If the child needs to be calm, don't surround the child with posters and duvets of Angry Birds, or racing cars, or busyness. It's like, would you sleep in that bedroom? Like, and I think this is it. Like, would you walk into a place and be it, like, it's covered in posters and it's like, all this craziness and busyness? Like, that's not calm.
I've never ever thought of it like that, but when you're saying it, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It's incredible, actually, isn't it? I'm genuinely quite mind blown. I mean, I'm thinking of my kids' rooms. We have Alessia, who's the youngest, she's 1. She'll be going in with Lily, who's our eldest, soon. She's still in with us, and so our room is not feeling very calm at the minute because it's cramped. The cot's there, and it's everything, isn't it? It all takes up space. So our kids both have bunk beds. They both choose to sleep on the top bunk, even though there's no one in the bottom bunk. And they both love to have a lot of teddies in their beds. They're just wooden beds. They're very, they're very, I mean, they've got calm colours in their room. It's very neutral and stuff. But they do have their toys in there. They have posters up. They have wall stickers. All of their bedding is very characterized. It's very bright and colourful. And it makes a lot of sense. And I'm thinking, I'm genuinely thinking now of all the things I need to change, especially in my son's room, because he would have his bed full of books, clothes, everything. He loves to be surrounded by things. You know, he has it's
Yeah.
absolutely packed in with teddies and everything, and he sleeps with his duvet right rolled up like this, and then sweats like crazy in the night. So I don't know how I will manage to sort of declutter his bed, but it sounds like that's what I kind of need to do.
Yeah, for sure. And then like if you like, do you really need the bunk beds?
We will need it in Lily's room because when
Yes.
Alessia goes in there, it would be
Yeah.
ideal. I mean, technically, we could fit in two single beds. I think we were doing it on a sort of space saving idea, um, because my daughter likes to have like her desk in there and things like that. She likes to do her homework in there. Um, so I don't know really.
And I think the thing is
It's
like it's not
definitely we won't
about
need
like
last ones.
it's not like a hard and fast rules with all of this. It's like you have to work with what you've got. And it's not like, oh my God, I'm doomed because they're all in bunk beds. But if it's something that you can experiment, like, I don't know, we used to have bunk beds when we were kids as well. And I'm like, you used to be able to separate them and have them as two beds, you know, that was
Yeah,
something, you know, so it was like, oh, well, and they're wooden, which is good. You
yeah,
know, and like don't and again this isn't a like oh my God when people are listening you don't have to go out and like change every characterized
yeah.
duvet but it's like okay well can I get like neutral colored sheets, can I start to you know declutter all the toys, and one of the fun things that I say to people regarding like decluttering for kids and for bedrooms and all that is you know start to you know this is where children start to learn about letting go and about like the holding on tightly to things is not a healthy practice emotionally or mentally or physically. And
Hmm.
when children start to learn from an early age to let go of things like okay I'm just going to let go of this toy because you know what this toy is going to go someone else is going to get to play with it and I can and another something else is going to come replace it. So I often have my clients work with their children to think about like make a vision board or you know make a vision board of what are the things like where would you like to go to, what are the adventures you'd like to have, and oh wow well there's 10 pictures on this so maybe we need to let go of 10 teddies or 10 you know I don't need Avengers or whatever, you know,
Yeah,
like whatever you need to, you know, and you can go through that with them and start to, you know, teach them the idea of like letting go to open up to receiving more and this sense of like energy moving. So you know when you are in that space and then the same goes for like having like stickers and posters and all stuff in the rooms. One of my clients had this great idea and lots of them have replicated it but they've given the children like a cork board or you know a clip these like frames with like clips and saying like okay these are your cork boards you can put whatever you want on those but the rest of the walls no, you know, so it's
yeah,
like they still get a space to express themselves. It's not like a law of like no you can't have anything. It's just like yes here you go we're gonna have this
yeah.
and you can play with it and then you can change it around and it doesn't damage the walls, it also keeps the space a bit more neutral.
Yeah, I think well, I say I've kind of limited where my husband would have the walls cluttered with everything. I've limited where the kids can have things on their walls. You know, they have
Mhm.
a space for their wall stickers because they picked them out when we moved house and it was just one of their things. They're making
Yeah.
their rooms their own. And then they've got like a little space for their posters. And then the rest
Mm-hmm.
of the walls in their rooms are, you know, clear where there's no furniture and stuff. Um, but it makes so much sense, doesn't it? I mean, we change our homes around throughout the year for things like Christmas and Halloween, and we'll,
Mm-hmm.
you know, take so many things out and then we'll put new things in, and we always think, oh, that looks nice, and I like the
Yeah.
change. I mean, I love changing things around. I love
Mm-hmm.
moving furniture and having things in different spaces. And honestly, Stuart, my husband, hates it because he'll come home from work and the sofa will be in the middle of the room because I'm moving everything around. And he goes mad at me because
Oh
he
look
gets
at
in from work and I go out.
I think the thing is like what's also really good with this is like, you know, changing things, letting go of things, like it's, you know, when nothing stays the same ever. So when you start to do
Yeah,
it young with kids, they start to really be able to embrace like change and letting go and transformation and creating, you know, setting up their space, you know, like teaching the children to set up like your bed in the right position, you know, getting the bed with a
mm,
headboard and it can see the door and being like, this is really good for you. So when you're lying in your bed, you can see the door, you know, getting a nice bed, like look after your bedroom. It's a whole like life thing then.
yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna have Stuart chopping down the bunk beds, I think.
Oh God, he'll kill
No,
me.
it's
It's like, not that, never doing that feng shui woman again.
I'm always getting him into trouble with this podcast, honestly.
Oh, really?
No, yes. Yeah. It's Stuart this, Stuart that, because I'll bring in, guests for different things, and he'll make comments, and then I tell the guests the comments that he's made.
Okay.
Um, so obviously we can work around clutter, we can work around toys. So for a calm home, you're talking neutral sort of colours, calming colours. I mean, how do we work that for Halloween? I mean, I'm looking at my fireplace right now. It's got bat things hanging down. It's got pumpkins. It's got
Yeah. So I
houses.
think that like when you have that, I think the thing is this is a dance. Like it's not about, as I said, perfection. So Halloween
Mhm.
decorations are completely fine. They're not permanent. They're not permanent.
Yeah,
They're just there for a short time. And it's part of like the kids and it's super fun to have it decorated. And then they're going to come down again. And the same goes for like the Christmas decorations. But when it comes like, and I would say to you, like one of the things that I'm really a big fan of and proponent of is in homes is like, yes, keeping it calm, but also the artwork is very, very powerful. So, what is up on the walls? Like, what are the paintings on the walls? Like, making your home become a vision board for your future so that when you walk
Mhm.
into your home, you're like seeing things that like uplift you and make you feel good. So, for example, in your children's bedrooms, like definitely have a family photo from like a really fun day that you all had together. That's like really good for reinforcing that family connection. in
Yeah,
the in the living room, have a family photo. In your bedroom, in your own bedroom, don't have a family photo, just have a picture of you and Stuart. Have a picture of the two of you,
yeah,
not the family. And I know obviously the little baby is moving out, so she'll be moving out, and then you'll be like, okay, now we're going to make our space the sanctuary for rest, romance, and relaxation. It's all about us. So like no more baby stuff, no more, really dedicated, and even like talk to them about like, well, what can we make space for in here that we just have this space that's just for us, and the kids are just not even allowed in. It's like, no, this is our space, close the
yeah,
door, picture of the two of you, make sure there's like some maybe artwork that represents a couple, or again, that idea of like two bedside tables, two lamps, the sense of balance and harmony in your bedroom, and making it feel like this is our special space, like our sanctuary. So you have like clear boundaries with your kids and your own room.
yeah. It does make so much sense, doesn't it? I
Yeah.
mean, you must hear this a lot. I know that I sound so dumbfounded, and I have been looking on your website, but
Mm.
when you're saying it to me as I'm bringing up my personal, you know, the way I'm living, it feels like, yeah, of course that would change the way
Mm-hmm.
that we behave and the way that we feel, and it's I'm genuinely shocked at like how much I think it will change everything. I think that we have a very calm living room. So the,
Mm-hmm.
the only busy thing in our living room, I mean, we have the toys sort of down that area. That's the kids area. This area is for sitting. I always wanted it to be sort of separated off. It's not a separate room, but
Yeah.
they're down that side. This is this side. Our curtains are quite busy. They're a sort of darker color, but it's neutral tones. It's wooden furniture. Even the sofa's neutral. So that's what our curtains are like. They match the cushions,
Oh, lovely.
and that's sort of it. So it's a calming space.
Mm.
But then when I do go up to my kids' rooms, as I say, they've got, because it's like Manchester United posters or it's Star Wars posters, and it's like, Manchester United, it's all red. It's
Red, I
very,
know.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm taking them out.
And it doesn't mean that they can't support it. And even if you kind of were like, okay, well, inside the wardrobes, they could put the poster in. It's just like, okay,
Yeah.
so it's like they can still have the poster, but it's inside the wardrobe, but it's not in display, and it's keeping the space calmer. And I think, for me, when it comes to feng shui, like there's so many different layers to this practice. And we've seen it
Hmm.
time and time again with, first of all, it's just like understanding that your environment is impacting you in your life. And when you start to change your environment, I mean, you start to become more conscious of like what you're bringing in, what you have in
Hmm.
your space, like the colors, the feel. It definitely does make a massive difference.
What got you into it? You know,
Yeah.
have you always been into it or what?
Yeah, so I got into it when I was about 15, and my parents had just we just moved house. They'd bought a new house and renovated it completely. And we moved into this house, and literally things just started to fall apart. Like, it was an absolute nightmare living in this house. Now,
Oh,
what's so interesting with this house was that, first of all, it was really good for money. So my parents' business did really well, and there was lots and lots of money, but there was lots of health issues. There was lots of legal issues, like stuff that had just never happened in our lives before. We were like, what the hell? Like, it was really nuts. So, that saying says, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. And I don't know, I think I heard about an afternoon TV or something, Feng Shui. And I asked about books about it. I asked my parents to hire a Feng Shui expert to come to the house. And we definitely experienced like a lot of traumatic, tough things in that house. It was a really hard house to live in. And it was completely out of balance. And it was only when, like, years later, I've always been then doing bits myself. And when I moved into my apartment in Dublin, I just kind of come back from India. I was training as a yoga teacher. I was working like as a holistic therapist. And I came back from India and I moved into a new apartment. And I was like, I'm not leaving here until I meet my husband. So I feng shuied my apartment for love. I did everything that I wanted. And for me, I see like feng shui as like the missing piece of the jigsaw of manifesting. So it's like, yeah, you can do the vision boards. Yeah, you can do the affirmations. Yeah, you can do all the mindset stuff. But if your house is, not supportive for money or not good for a career, it doesn't matter like how hard you work. You're like
yeah.
you're not going to get me forward. So I set everything up and I met my husband like really soon afterwards. And he had also done feng shui. So when we moved in together, he had done feng shui. I was walking around his house going like, this is feng shui, like this. And he'd been into it since his 20s because he was like at the time in his own kind of personal journey and was like, well, you know what, if your house is, your house is a mirror of you and your life. So as I said,
Yeah.
if things are not going right for you, like check your house. They're going to be the same thing. And so he was into it. I was into it. Then we were living together and I was like, I want to do this. I want to do it in our own house. I want to figure out how I want to learn more. So 2 feng shui masters arrived in Dublin. I ended up training. So did he. And I didn't really go searching for this or for the business. Like, I was working with moms, a lot of moms with kids. And I put it on my newsletter one week that I was, I like trained in feng shui, just like, by the way,
Yeah.
I'm literally walking down the street one day and I met one of my clients and she was like, I've always wanted my house feng shuied. Come to my house. So I did her house and then with their kids. And then she told someone else. And then when we moved to Bali, we decided to, I was like, couldn't do that in-person work. So I was like, oh, I'm going to try, maybe I'll do some feng shui. And that's how it just happened. We started sharing, I started teaching people more about it. And we've just seen so much amazing success. And originally, it was always about like abundance and money and, career were like the main, like love, abundance, and career were the main
Yeah.
things. But what we started to see was like moms coming in and saying, oh my God, like my kids have just got like into the universities they wanted to get into because of the feng shui, or I've just like set up my children are sleeping better, or this has happened, or, I'm getting on, my kids are getting on better. So that's
Yeah.
where I was like, there's so much more depth to this practice. And I really wanted to share with moms in particular, because I was like, you know what, you're the ones that can make the changes around the houses anyways,
Yeah.
So
We're the only ones who
yeah,
are gonna do it, aren't we?
exactly. And it's like the bigger picture is, when you think about creating a home, you want a space that is super supportive and it feels good and that you feel good and your kids feel good, and like you just want everyone to flourish. So that's kind of how it happened. And we just saw loads of success for moms, and the kids then also started getting wins, and the partners. So we've had like so many husbands get promotions and pay rises
Yeah.
and new cars like that. It just blows my mind because they're not even that bothered by it. They're just like, what are you doing? Like, why
Yeah.
feng shui? And then they're like, I don't know, whatever you're doing, but just like keep doing it.
Yeah. Keep
So,
going. I like this.
yeah. So it's just
You
been a
know,
journey. Yeah, it's been a journey. And that's how I got into it, because I experienced like life in a very tough, negative feng shui house. And now I experience life in a very good feng shui house. And it's very different.
I mean, I'm definitely going to be reading about. I mean, it's something. See, this is only since speaking to you. I've never um really understood it. I've never had a massive interest in it, but I genuinely would love to train in it. Like now that we've just spoken, because when you were saying about money, so I have my scores here
Oh
from your
yeah.
quiz. So I got 61% overall. For career, it was 33%. I'm a school cleaner, so it's a job. It gets me
Yeah.
out of the house, and love and marriage 80%. So obviously that's great. Money was 100%, and that I think when we were in the old house that everything cost less in our old house. It was a smaller mortgage, and we used less gas and electric because it was smaller. We weren't buying as much food and stuff because the baby was younger. Um, that would have been a lot lower then. We didn't have the money flow we have now. We
Wow.
seem to have got better with money. My husband did get a pay rise not so long ago. Um, Health, I scored 60%. My health has improved since we moved here. I've had
Wow.
ongoing conditions for years. Family and community, 50%. So that's why I'm talking about my son. Since we moved here, he seems to have struggled. But
Mm,
because he's moved up from key stage two to key stage, no, key stage one to key stage two. We've had Alessia, so he's no longer the youngest. We kept blaming things,
yeah.
but I'm starting to think maybe it's changes we need to make.
Yeah.
We maybe need to have a calmer space. For him, obviously it's a calm space for me, but he's spending a lot of his time in his room, isn't he?
Yeah.
So it's things like that. Fame and reputation, 67%. That's the one I don't fully understand where that one came from. Um, New beginnings, fertility, creativity, 67%. Personal development and spirituality, 60%. And travel, 25%. We are going away next year, but we've been away less since we had the baby because it's
Hmm.
hard work, isn't it? You've got to take the kitchen
Yeah.
sink with you. Um, so since when you were talking there about how things changed when you moved, it genuinely triggered in my mind. Well, we didn't have the cash flow that we have now, even though everything
Mm,
costs more now.
yeah.
Back then,
Wow.
and yeah, he has had a pay rise. It's not a huge pay rise. He's
Yeah.
had one, but I think we've become better with money as well.
Yeah.
Because I'm still in the same job. Not a lot has really changed, but now we've got two cars and we're looking into getting my car, which is the main car. We're looking to replace it with a car we would have never been able to afford.
Yeah.
And it's things like that. I would have never started this podcast in the old house,
Yeah.
but I have the sort of comfort here to feel safe to do this now. Do you know what I mean? Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Totally. And
So
like, this is the thing. It's like amazing that you're having this aha moment and you're like, wow, like, so it's obviously supportive. It's a supportive home in many aspects for you. And then maybe your son. And the thing is, some people will thrive in some houses and others may not. And, from a
yeah,
feng shui perspective, it could be his bedroom energies, like that are the invisible energies there that are kind of like affecting him, or it could be just the overall, just it may be just the middle sun energy. There's a lot of different
yeah,
aspects that can come into it. So yeah, like it's amazing. And I think this is where when people kind of look back, they're like, yeah, oh my God, like we've had, like, I remember one of our very first clients who worked with us online, Gail, and like if you saw her house, it was like out of a postcard. Like it was just this
yeah,
beautiful wooden house in the forest. Like she's like, we bought our dream house, but our lives have fallen apart. And it was just like everything that could be going wrong was going wrong. And the minute I got her report, I was like, well, obviously it's because of this, 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 this. And she, she was on the verge of divorce. Her business was struggling. Like her kids were fighting. They didn't even want to come home. It was just all drama. And that's the thing. It was like, but if you drove up to that house, you're like, I would love to live there. That looks like the most
yeah,
magical place in the world. And it wasn't. So it's like, it's nice. I'm glad to hear that you've moved up to a new house and
yeah,
it's been a more positive. But the idea, she was like, oh my God, since we moved here, it's just fallen apart. And that idea is that it may not be you. And we can often be thinking like, well, why am I struggling? Why are things not going the way we want to go? I'm working really hard. Like, you haven't changed your job and your husband hasn't, but things are easier, you know? Whereas it can be the opposite as well. Be like, why are things hard? Why is it not easy? And how can I change it? And, you know, we spend so much time in our homes. Like, when you change your environment, it changes your life. So Gail, like, definitely then, and she ended up, you know, getting her business doing really well, herself and her husband back on track. Like, just, it was just such a gift, because she's like, she could feel immediate changes, because the house had just inauspicious, not healthy energies.
Yeah. I'm as soon as we're off this, I'm going to be looking into it genuinely, because I want to make things better for my son, you know, because it obviously it affects all of us. If one of you isn't happy, then none of you are happy. And he does have the smallest room in the house. So maybe the way we've got it set up at the minute with his furniture just isn't working for him. I'm gonna look into it and see what I can do. I'm gonna chop that bunk bed.
And check the so on my website at patricialohan.com/moms, I have like another training, like a video that I did about feng shui for kids' bedrooms. So there's more resources there for you. And there's also a guide that goes through like kind of everything step by step for bedrooms. And there's a meditation for a peaceful and harmonious home. So you can get it at patricialohan.com/moms. MOMS.
That's incredible. I will put the link to that exact one on the bio of this episode. So I really appreciate you coming on. Do you have any social medias that anyone can follow you on, or is it?
For sure. So I have patricialohan.com/moms, and on at patricialohan.com you'll get like access to my YouTube, because I'm at Patricia Lohan for YouTube. I've got loads of videos there. I also have Instagram, which is Powerhouse Feng Shui, because I'm at Patricia Lohan as well, but that's like my personal one. But the work one is Powerhouse Feng Shui. And I do reels every day. So there's like different reels with feng shui tips and things you can do around your house every day.
Well, I'll be giving you a follow, and I will put those in the bio for everyone to click on, and they can get straight to it.
You're so welcome.
I genuinely think you're gonna change my life.
Well, that's what I'm here for, and you wouldn't be the first person who said it. And it's not me, it's actually the forces that bring people together. Like, there's definitely a higher thing going on. Just, when you need help, the support is always right in front of us, or literally under our nose, but we just have to be open to it. So you're just open to bringing in feng shui into the podcast, and let's hope that some of the things that you do around your house, and for everybody listening, it's going to help them as well.
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely think it will, because you have opened my eyes massively. I really appreciate it.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for coming on.
You're so welcome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it too.
We'll maybe have to do a follow-on episode in a few months and see when I've changed things. If my life's changed.
You've already done the quiz. You've got the guide of the list of things to do, and check out the 101 mini course. That's a great resource with like loads of videos teaching you and kind of giving you an insight of like how feng shui works. So there's tons of resources there to help you.
Well, I will definitely be doing that. Thank you so much. Honestly,
thanks a million.
I'm feeling very positive.
Amazing.
It was very nice to meet you.
You too. Thanks a million. Bye-bye.
So I hope you all enjoyed that conversation that me and Patricia had. I found it really interesting, actually. I mean, there are so many women out there, specifically women who they say their lives have changed thanks to Patricia. So it just shows, doesn't it? There's got to be something in it. I definitely believe in energies, though. That's kind of my belief system. I know it's not everybody's, but I'm very open to so many things, and I think I'm naturally quite open to people now in a way I never used to be, because I have friends who are very much they're strong Christians, they have strong belief systems. I have friends who are atheists. I have friends who believe more in sort of a spiritual energy side. I think I'm quite open to a lot of things. I love learning about people's lives and stuff, and I think this episode suited me in terms of, obviously, I believe in sort of energies. I believe that energies come off people. You get a good energy and a bad energy. And I think that maybe she's right. Maybe energies do come with houses and homes and places of work and stuff. So, yeah, I think it's worth sort of maybe looking into a revisit of that episode and speaking to her again in future and seeing if it has changed things for us as I try and follow it a bit. Again, it's all about time, isn't it? It's finding the time to do these things. I guess we're all in the same kind of circle in that sense, but I do hope you enjoyed listening to that. So I want to thank all of my listeners. I can't quite explain how it feels at times to see how many people listen to this. As I say, I didn't expect anyone to listen. The only person I hoped really and thought might listen was Stuart. And it was very much a please hear me, I am going to crack up kind of thing. So seeing my listeners' numbers, it's incredible. I want to specifically thank the listeners who engage with the podcast, those who email me, those who like and share the Instagram posts, those who, I mean, when you do a shout out on your Instagram story about the podcast, people who are passing on the podcast, I get emails off people saying, oh, this was recommended to me by a friend and I feel so relatable. When I started this out, as I said slightly earlier, I was in a different mindset, and I was saying to Stuart earlier today, I don't know whether I need to maybe delete some episodes or delete it altogether and maybe restart from a sort of a different perspective, a different point of view, or how I would build this podcast. Otherwise, I'm not really sure. In a sort of selfish way, I feel like I've got the podcasting bug and I would love for it to be just a bit more successful than it is. Obviously having started out this and not expecting anyone to listen, this is just me being totally honest. You know, I could sit here and lie and say, oh, I'm not bothered, but I am. Every time I get more listeners, it's kind of a little bit of a buzz, and it's like, you know, when I get an email or a message, I really appreciate the people who are passing on the podcast. I appreciate the people who are sending me ideas for the podcast. I don't know how to grow it though. Do you know what I mean? I know of people out there who have had like 5 or 6 podcasts before they've found the one that works. And I look at some of the episodes now, just the names of them, and I have sort of memories of what I said on those episodes, and I think, but things have changed so much, and then as people are listening back, I don't know how to do it. I guess I'm just airing out my thoughts, but I do want to say a massive thank you to all the listeners who are sharing it, who are giving me shout outs, who are following the Instagram. I know for a fact I have more listeners than Instagram followers. Obviously I get to see my statistics of this, so maybe not everyone's on Instagram, that's fine, but it would kind of help pass on the podcast if I got more followers there, if I got a bit more interaction there. I'm not the kind of person who's afraid to say when I'm struggling with something, and I feel like I've kind of hit a wall of like wanting more engagement in it, more kind of, I don't know. The people who rate the podcast and review the podcast, thank you so much, because that really, really helps. I have no idea how. I don't understand it, but I know that it helps because I see the statistics and I see when I'm in and out of the Apple Podcast charts, and quite a lot of it is to do with ratings and reviews. 5 stars makes a massive, massive difference. I recently got another dad listener. I got a message saying, is this just for women? And I said, no, of course not. I have male listeners. I have dads who listen. And he said, oh, good, because I'm really enjoying it. It's really interesting. And I was like, oh, thank you. I've changed so much since me and Stu met, and I sometimes think this would have been interesting if I'd started something like this way back then, to see how I've evolved as a person. But I don't know, I do want it to grow a bit more. I also wanted to do a bit of a shout out to the mums who have sent me emails and messages asking how to get back to themselves. Because you can't. If you've had a baby, you are no longer the person before the baby. You're a totally different person. You've changed, you've evolved. That's what happens. It happens with every single baby. That's what matrescence is. Your body changes, your mindset changes, your view on politics changes, your emotions change, everything changes. Right down to sex life changes. You know, you might not enjoy things that you used to enjoy. You become a totally different person. Everything changes, and this is kind of a shout out to all those women to say embrace it, because I don't like who I was before I had kids. I didn't like myself then. I don't like who I was looking back now. But now, I quite like the person I am. I have accepted my body for what it is. It definitely wobbles. I have stretch marks. It's very much imperfect, but it is also the body that carried my 3 children. It fed my 3 children. It gets me up out of bed every morning. So, you know, sometimes it's as basic as accepting your body. I much prefer my mindset. I was quite a judgmental cow before we had kids, and I was rude and brash, and I had been through a really hard time that not a lot of people know about, and it affected me massively. But the way that I've changed since then, I have become I'm not judgmental. I am a lot calmer than I used to be. I'm quite chilled about things that in the past I never would have been. I've changed, and I actually much prefer this version of me. So try to embrace it and try to become the person you want to be, because during matrescence it's your chance to sort of pick who you are. You know, you're changing in ways you can't control, but there are ways that you can. Get up every day and decide who you want to be and become that person. It takes a long time. It took me a long time, but here I am, and I'm happy in myself. So please don't hate on yourself. Don't bog yourself down. Please keep sending me emails and messages. Please follow the Instagram. Please interact on the Instagram. Likes, comments. It all makes a difference. Please share my posts. Please share the podcast on your stories and your Facebook and your Instagram and with your friends and in any way you can. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's very much in the backseat for me. It's just there. It's growing slowly kind of thing. It's not something I really focus my time on, because my time has to be focused on this. But yeah, it all helps. So please keep doing that. I have a very busy week ahead. But I will try to keep replying to messages, emails, all of that, and let's see if we can get back in the Apple Podcast charts again. I'd love to go. I think my highest I've been was number 17. I'd love to get higher. I think I've got that real push now. I've got the bug. I'm really enjoying doing it. Let me know if there's anything in the podcast you'd want to hear, or if there's any ways I could change it that would make you prefer it. I think it's quite good that I'm mixing it up with some episodes with just me, some with guests. I sometimes don't know how to do it. I'm learning still. I guess I'm learning as you're all listening. I'm very open to that. I don't mind being the, what's the word? Like the gerbil that gets tested. I can just see the kids downstairs. They've got a new little kitchen, so they're all playing. Yeah, please keep listening. Please keep subscribing. Keep downloading. It all makes a difference. I really appreciate you all. I'm sorry. I repeated that so many times. My brain froze. And yeah, that's what happens. It's life, isn't it? I'm also looking to grow the podcast in terms of if anyone wants to kind of work together. So say there's a local company, a small company. If you listen to the podcast, or if you're a customer of a small company and you listen to this and you think it would kind of fit in well, give me a shout. It could even be as basic as I could print out some posters, and if I could put them up in your business, and in exchange I'll talk about your business on the podcast. I don't know, I'm open to a lot of stuff. I'd love like a sponsorship. I'm an open book. I'm very like, I think a lot of people do this on the quiet when they look for all this kind of stuff, but I'm very much an open book because I think that people in general want to help and they want what's good for others. So sponsorship would be really good. If there's any bigger companies that, I'd feel bad taking from a small company, I think. But any small companies, local ones are great. I'm in Cumbria, specifically West Cumbria. If we could look into maybe doing something like that, some sort of way of working together, that would be amazing. Just email me, mamasgonemad23@gmail.com. You can also contact me on the Instagram, which is mamasgonemad_podcast. And the YouTube channel is mamasgonemad 23, I think. Oh, I should know that, shouldn't I? That just shows, doesn't it? If you search Mama's Gone Mad on YouTube, you'll find me. I'm also thinking about changing my logo and changing a few things to help it grow. Give me a shout with any ideas. Give me a shout if you think it's what's a good idea, what's a bad idea. I am very open to the fact that maybe I'm not the best at this, but I do enjoy it, so I'm going to keep doing it. Hopefully you'll keep listening along. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I'm going to head off now, let you all get on with your days. Stay, positive, and don't bog yourselves down too much, or as little as you can. And contact the podcast if you ever want to talk about anything. Just send me an email, send me an Instagram message. I love receiving them. Thank you so much yet again for listening to me babble on and listening to this. I genuinely can't even explain how much I appreciate it. Thank you all. Bye.
Mama's gone mad. Mama's gone mad. Mama's gone